Welcome to the Northeast Kingdom Voice. I'm your host, Scott Wheeler. Today we took a road trip to the State House in Montpelier, my old digs when I used to serve in the House of Representatives. And today we have a person with us who I used to serve with, Kesha Ram. Did I say your name right? I've often wondered, is it Kesha or Kesha?
Oh, Scott, you can pronounce it any way you want. It's Kesha for the viewers.
And is it Ram or Ram?
It's Ram. You got that part right.
Okay, I got it right. Well, it was nice to come down here. It was, and you're also running for lieutenant governor, so that's going to mean you're no longer going to be in the House.
That's right. I hope to be a little further, just down the stairs in the State House. But after 8 really good years in the legislature, 2 which I was proud to serve with you, I will be moving on from the House.
Right. And then I came down here today because, the State House, no matter what, once you've been here, once you've served here, it's always a part of you. I would never do it again. I loved my time down here, but, I had to get home and do business. But today I came down here because my friend and producer of this show, Todd Peranto, was here to sing in front of the House. And, he's also an aspiring politician, but
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, he was.
Man of many talents.
Yes, he's also the son of a mayor of Newport back in the 1980s, I believe.
That's right.
So he has it in his blood. The problem is he leans a little bit to the left, but I could straighten him up a little bit.
Yeah, well, and I don't want to get too far into the conversation talking about Newport and the Kingdom without just saying to everybody at home, we're all thinking of you, and I was on the phone with Mayor Monette, and, thank you for helping to connect us, Scott, and talking to some folks near Burke Mountain.
Right.
Just wanting to be of whatever help we can to the community to re-envision what's possible and get folks back on track and working.
It was one of the biggest blows we've had because, I'm going to say something that not everybody's going to agree with. I have known Bill Stinger for 20 years. I have known him to be a man of integrity. I still have great faith in Bill. I think something went askew, and I hope we can work this out. Am I saying, if Bill and Ari did something wrong, they're going to have to pay. But I've known Bill for a long time, and before I cast judgment on him, I want to hear the whole story. And I think it's, a lot of people have already played judge and jury. I'm gonna wait. But as for the Kingdom, as for Newport, personally, I think we're going to not only survive, but I think we'll thrive. I think it was an eye-opener that money just doesn't fall out of the sky.
Right.
And I think maybe we banked on that too much.
Right. I think a lot of people felt like it was too good to be true, potentially, and it turns out that perhaps in some ways it was. And as I talked to folks, particularly around Burke Mountain, a lot of what they said was, it's our family mountain. I mean, it's where we take our kids. Our heart is there. It's part of our community. And we've had a lot of people come in and make promises to us about what it was going to be. And maybe it's time for us to be in control of our own destiny.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know the history, because I actually have written the history of both mountains.
Of course you have.
Burke has had, throughout the decades, have had different people come in and make these huge promises. And I think that's why Burke was particularly hesitant, because this is not the first show that has fallen apart on him. But I think there's not one person that would say we need to drop the Q in Q Burke.
Right, I think they want that gone.
That was nothing against the Curoses.
Yep.
But that Q did not belong there.
No. It is Burke Mountain. It always will be Burke Mountain. And I hope to stay in touch with folks. See if there's something that can't be done where folks can raise some capital and have part ownership. There's a big investigation that has to continue and no decisions will be made. But let's help people be poised to shape their own future, once the dust does settle.
And the people of the Northeast Kingdom, we're survivors anyways.
That's right.
Because, some people say, well, when we had a recession, my brother-in-law was always fond of saying, recession? He said, I've been in a depression all my life. So the recession's nothing. Now that's a little bit of tongue in cheek, but it's true is we do know how to survive better than people in tough times, better than say wealthier areas, because I don't, up our way, if you make like $50,000 a year, you're like rolling.
Right,
And
yeah.
$50,000 in Burlington, I'm not sure if you'd still be living in your car.
Well, we try to survive too, but there's nothing like Kingdom Strong.
Right.
The folks in the Northeast Kingdom are incredibly resilient. I, for one, wish you didn't have to come here to see me in Montpelier. I can't wait to get back up and to see you and to get to Newport, Glover, wherever I can go to connect with people and hear more about what they're facing. I was, even a couple months ago, I was up at the Crystal Saloon in Barton. I think the name has changed.
Oh.
Is it something
No,
like the Lakeside or something like that?
I'm not sure.
Well, anyway, I just ran into some of the folks who grew up in the Burke area, who were employers.
So you're talking about in Barton?
Yeah.
Well, you went to a real bar.
I love the Crystal Saloon.
Yeah, that was because
There's a great band playing.
that's like if somebody wants an old fashioned like.
Yep,
rough
a
and
real
tumble bar.
dime. Yeah, well, and as you may know, Scott, I'm not sure if you do, I grew up in my Indian immigrant father and Jewish American mother's Irish pub.
Oh,
So
really?
I was bussing tables and sweeping floors as a young
I didn't know that
person,
story.
as being asked to pick up peanut shells. So, I know the drill. It's a part of my habitat. And just talking to some of the workers before all of this broke, they didn't like the direction things were headed. They were feeling really powerless in the situation without even knowing any of this was coming.
Yeah.
Maybe they could even see it coming.
Well, I think the problem lies because I have, as I said, I've worked with Bill on different projects on the history of Jay. I think all of us had it in the back of our minds, but as I said, I still think Bill is a good man who just maybe something went askew somewhere along the way because he's helped me a lot out through the years. But I think the other thing is because it had an oversight of the state and federal governments, even when it didn't feel right, you're thinking, well, we have state government, we have federal government overseeing it. How wrong can it be?
I like to think of the good in folks as well, Scott. I think that's what made us good friends in the legislature and why we remain good friends. It's on a spectrum of somewhere from he was being taken for a ride and he wasn't fully aware of how deep this went to he was complicit and knew what was going on and either didn't stop it or benefited himself. I think people can change and be redeemed, and certainly he's done so much good.
No, he has.
But we just have to figure out what went wrong so that it doesn't happen to people in the kingdom again.
But it needs to happen, not only for the sake of this particular scandal, but for future issues, because there were other people who apparently, within government, apparently did not have all the checks and balances in place. So I think everybody can learn from this. But, in the meantime, I'm focusing on the positive. Now, the one thing I will say, because I think we canceled each other out more than a few times voting, but I've appreciated your willingness to work with the other party and work with other people, because you and I, we come from different worlds and we could hate each other, but we choose not to. I think too many people, they, just because they disagree with each other, they think, well, if I disagree with them, that must mean we have to hate each other.
Right,
And I've often appreciated, even now, if there's something going on that I need to know about in Chittenden County, I say, I contact you.
Yeah.
Of course, let's be real. Once you've served in the State House, you're kind of like a big family.
That's
anyways.
right.
And you never, you never totally lose it. Like when I come here to the State House, I get more hugs and handshakes than I can whole year at home.
Oh gosh,
So,
did you hear that, folks? You got to give Scott more hugs
Yeah,
at
you need
home.
more hugs.
Well, just to what you said, one of the first lessons I learned here, and it came from one of your Republican colleagues, was no matter who's in the majority and the minority, who's in control of the House or the building, You know, the majority may be steering the ship, but it takes the minority to point out the rocks. And that's when we're at our best in government.
So now, why are you, because you've made a difference in the House, why now Lieutenant Governor seat? Why are you gunning there?
Well, as you can appreciate, 8 years is a good long time to serve in the House, and I feel proud of what I've been able to accomplish. A lot of my work has been focused on some of the major affordability issues and issues for the next generation of Vermonters that often otherwise are left out of the conversation. First-time homebuyer tax incentives, or you know, affordability of higher education, access to early childhood education. You know, a lot of Vermonters, as I travel around the state, are telling me they can't continue to pay a Vermont premium on their cost of living and take a Vermont discount on their wages. They're really struggling. They pay for childcare, health care, property taxes, and there's not much left after that. And that's actually a vote. So I'll have to get to the floor soon. But you know, it really feels like a pivotal time in the state where we need new leadership and new voices. We have to worry about what the future of Vermont is going to look like, and if we're going to have enough young people to support the workforce, to take care of folks who's given so much to the state and want to retire and have the quality of life they should. And so, you know, I really feel like I can be that connector in chief for Vermonters and an advocate for what really matters to Vermonters.
And I don't think people realize, unless they're here, I was in my 40s when I was in legislature, and I was still one of the babies. I was one of the youngsters, because what I found is there was a lot of people in their late 50s to even 80s, but then there was only a handful of you, because you were elected at a very young age.
I was 22 when I started in the House.
Right, and so the thing is you have brought a much needed face.
Oh, thank you.
To because you know I like to, in my mind I'm 25. If you stay away from
my mind too, Scott.
Yeah, okay. But then you know you get around a camera or anything that reflects, and I'm not 25. So you bring a perspective, and you and the other. Now, are you still? Is there many other young people following up in back of you?
So there's one member younger than me now, Corey Parent, Republican from St. Albans, and it's the two of us who are in our 20s in the whole legislature. And actually, he and I and a progressive member from Winooski formed what we call a future caucus.
Right.
And the focus of our future caucus is bringing all kinds of folks together, all ages, to figure out how we support and empower the next generation. And we're actually working on a summit next week, April 27th at 4 p.m. We're going to bring young professional groups and students and people who care about the future of young folks in the state into the State House to have what I like to call an entrance interview. Let's figure out what's getting people to come to Vermont or stay in Vermont rather than always be worried about people leaving. How do we think about what our strengths are and why young people want to be here and build off of that? So those are the conversations I really like to have.
I suspect if Senator Sanders makes it to the general election, that could mean good things for you.
Oh,
Because there's a whole groundswell of young people
That's right.
who are coming out to vote, for right or wrong, because I even think even young people who might be voting against him, there's going to be both sides of that issue.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly excited about Bernie Sanders. He gave me my first big break in politics. I introduced him and this rising star senator from Illinois when I was a sophomore at the university in 2006. And that rising star senator from Illinois turned in the middle of his speech, after I had given mine about why young people need to get involved, he turned to Bernie and he said, "Bernie, if you don't behave yourself, we're going to run her for the Senate instead of you." It was the first time anyone encouraged me to run for office, and he became our president 2 years later. So Bernie's really given me a leg up politically, and I'm really excited to see him in this race. He's talking about real issues. We know and love him in Vermont, and I hope he does make it all the way.
Well, you know what? I just wrote a piece, and I'm not endorsing him in any way, because I do, I have a love-hate relationship with, as I do with most politicians. But what I've said in my article is, I end it by saying whether you think he's a political prophet or a senile socialist, he's really handled himself well. I think he's done Vermont proud. You know, even the people, I've even challenged people who will not vote for him have said, yeah, you know, in this three-ring circus of a year, because, you know, let's admit, I think both parties have had their share of embarrassments. And I think Senator Sanders, so far, has managed to get through it. Okay.
I have a few minutes before the vote, and I couldn't agree more. I just love watching him, you know, give a rally one night in some place and get on a plane overnight and get somewhere else and give a rally in the morning. I mean, he's showing how energetic and passionate Vermonters are.
Okay, I have talked about this with my wife, is I have to occasionally go around and do talks, or my producer, Todd Peranto, has to go, has to go a few times a month to do. That's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. How does a man, 74 years old?
Right.
You know, it's like, oh my God, I could not do it. And, and
he's energized by his message. The country's electrified by his message. I feel the same way in some small microcosmic way, that I just get such a boost from talking to Vermonters and, you know, just focusing on what they want and need, and really are having someone who listens to them is so important. And so I really get a lot of my energy from the spirit of Vermont.
I will say this, though. I will say this one thing is, Chittenden County sometimes, I hate to say this, needs to understand there is another Vermont.
That's
too.
Right.
And I don't mean just the kingdom, because
south of Route 4.
We have
Absolutely.
a lot of other. Okay, well, we have to wrap up, or you're going to miss a vote, and I bet you don't miss many.
I try not to miss any votes in this building, and I, have tried not to miss very many in my 8 years here. And, it's just wonderful to catch up with you, Scott. And like you said, it's so important that folks who are from Burlington or Chittenden County understand the rest of the state, and all of us as legislators or public servants in Montpelier understand how to serve the whole state. People who consider themselves of whatever party or of whatever persuasion, we're all Vermonters. We're all in this together. We're one state, and I just look forward to keeping on traveling the state, talking to people, listening, and again, can't wait to get up to the kingdom and hear from folks directly about what they want and need out of the current difficult situation we are all facing as Vermonters.
If somebody wants to contact you for any purpose, how can they contact you?
Well, my website is kesharam.com, KESHARAM.com, and I put my cell phone number on my card. I always have since I started in the legislature, and I haven't regretted it since. My cell phone number is 802-881-4433, and I welcome anybody to call with their questions or concerns. And I did, before we go, I wanted to make one clarification. Mayor Monette and I exchanged messages, but we haven't had a chance to talk on the phone. So I misspoke about our medium of communication, but I just want folks to know I am listening and I'm available by phone and having conversations all the time about what folks are facing in the kingdom, water contamination issues in Bennington, you name it, around the state. We're at a crossroads. Vermonters are facing some really pivotal issues, and they need to know that Montpelier is listening and that somebody is acting on their behalf, and that's what I hope to do as Lieutenant Governor. Okay, thank you for coming on, and as always, it was great catching up with you. It was great serving with you, and you know what? If you don't win, I hate to talk like that, but there is life outside of the State House, and you will find a different way to serve your state, as I have. I walked away from it, and I served my state through the writing. That's right, and you do such a wonderful job serving the state. And I'll be coming up and hanging out with you. We'll go ice fishing. We'll hang out at the Crystal Saloon. We're not going to go ice fishing right now. If Crystal Saloon, that's I can do it. If I lose, hopefully we'll be back into winter and we'll get some ice covering the water. Okay. All right. And thank you to the viewers for tuning in to another segment of the Northeast Kingdom Voice.
time.